army thought the experiment was a failure. That their drug didn't work. But it just took a little time to turn you into... Deathstroke. And the people that you love have paid a terrible price.
You see, I have a secret.
So what are we going to do about it?
We?
You're not going after him alone this time.
Hello everyone, it's the Axle Shifter here, and I am finally back with the next Forlorn Classics episode. And this time, I'm not going to be talking about a video game, I'm going to be talking about an animated movie. Deathstroke, Knights and Dragons. This is honestly one of the best DC animated movies I've ever watched, and it's not as good as, say, like Batman, Mask of the Phantasm, you know, the DCAU movies or the DC animated movie universe films. But still, it comes at a kind of a close second because this movie was really, really good, and I really enjoyed it. So, now let's discuss why. Here we go. Deathstroke Knights and Dragons was released on January 6, 2020, and it was originally meant to be a series made for over 12 episodes on CW Seed, of course, but however, the plan was altered after the first episode aired, and after which the series was then repurposed to an animated film titled, Knights and Dragons, Deathstroke and shit. So yeah, the film basically follows Slade Wilson, also known as Deathstroke, as his origin as he gains his different abilities after a military experiment, basically the same as it happened in the comics, and this also explores his relationships with his family, including his wife Adeline and his children Joseph and Rose, who turns out to actually be working for Hive the entire time when he first met her through a video call anyway. But yeah. So really, this film is about Slade's relationship with his family and how it's pretty strained considering the fact that he did lie to them for all these years about how he was a businessman, but in reality he was a mercenary. But still, what I really like about this story is that it's complex in a way to the point where, yeah, other films are also complex, but I really like it here in this certain because we get to see how Slade is definitely not a good person, obviously. I mean, he kills people and he lied to his family for a long time about what job he was taking and potentially putting them in danger, which he did because the Assassin's Hive had slit his son's throat, Joseph's throat, so he can't speak anymore. But he does later end up getting powers that allows him to speak through his mind through, telekinetic powers, but still, Slade may not be a good person. He's done a lot of terrible things, but you still find yourself kind of rooting for him in a way, and his character and his fight scenes are absolutely awesome because you get to see how much of a fucking badass Deathstroke is. I really wish we had a Deathstroke game by DC. That would be really cool. But anyways, I also really like the general direction of the story and how it goes. I mean, the end of the movie, spoilers ahead, shows Deathstroke presumably dying, but thanks to his healing factor and all that, he's shown to actually survive this whole time. So that's what I really like about the story here. It's really, really good. Next thing we have to talk about here about this movie is the animation, and while personally it's not as well animated as, say, Spider-Verse or other DC animated movies I've seen, I still say that the general art style and animation is still pretty good here, especially with the shading and the background, and especially with the character designs. I especially like Deathstroke's design and his suit here. It looks pretty comic accurate, to be honest, and it looks really cool looking, honestly, in general. I especially like, just in general, once again, the art style of everything else here, and the fight and action scenes are genuinely the best parts of the movie. They are really fucking cool. They're really nice. I especially like the expressions in general, animation and style and everything on Deathstroke, or Slade Wilson as you call him, because despite the fact that he has done really bad things over the years, you can still tell that he does have a heart, or at least in this movie anyways, because in the comics he actually is a general kind of villain anyway, like a Nightwing or Teen Titans villain, or also fights Batman on numerous occasions in the comics. But at least in this version that I've seen, Slade actually does care about his son and generally does love him, although he still does, be an assassin and shit and kill people. But yeah, he did lie to them and say he was a businessman, like I've already said before, so of course. But in general, overall, the animation of this film, while it's not the best thing ever, it's still really good for what it does. Now let's talk about the characters. First, we have Michael Chiklis as Slade Wilson, or Deathstroke. Personally, I think he did a pretty good job in this movie, as he sounds pretty accurate to what I think the character would sound like in the comics. But personally, I do like Slade more from Teen Titans and shit. But yeah, I still overall think he did a pretty good job here. And next we have Sasha Alexander as Adeline Kane, or, Deathstroke, or Slade Wilson's wife anyway. I also think she did a good job, as she sounded pretty real in her conversations with Slade about, him lying to her for, most of their relationship and everything, and causing their family, kind of fall apart for a little bit before they then go back together. But still, a lot of bad shit happened, like, yeah, his son lost his voice and everything. And speaking of his son, we have Asher Bishop as Joseph Wilson, or Jericho as he's called throughout the later points of the film, or out the middle towards the end. He later ends up getting telekinetic powers and shit, and can basically speak within his mind, really, or at least can project his voice using his mind, but he still can't actually talk with his mouth and everything because, again, his throat got slit by, a hive member. But still, I thought his son was pretty cool, but I would have liked to seen his more maybe life outside of Slade and his mother, because he did end up getting sent away to a school and supposedly abandoned by both of them, really. So yeah, I would have liked to see more of his backstory, not backstory, but just the general life he had after, his throat got slit and he got sent away to that school. But anyways, we have Bronze Tiger, who has a minor role in the film where he fights Slade. And personally, I thought Bronze Tiger was pretty cool, though I would have liked to see him get utilized more and more DC adaptations, because while he has appeared in many adaptations of DC, he's kind of been treated as more of a lesser fighter, really. So yeah. And next we have Jackal, who was pretty much the main antagonist of the film. Personally, I think Jackal is really cool, and I especially like both his designs in the past and especially near the end of the movie. They are really cool looking. And also he sounds pretty intimidating too, honestly. I really liked him as a villain. And then we have Fia Maya as the Hive Queen, or Jade per se, because yeah, Jade is actually another one of Slade's kids that he had back, that other fucking country when he cheated on his wife with another fucking woman, I guess, maybe. So yeah, I did like Jade, but I would have liked to see her more at her childhood. We did get minor flashbacks of her as she grew up and learned how to fight and everything and develop her powers that she inherited from Deathstroke. But I personally would have liked to see more of that personally. And yeah, and as for that, we also have Wintergreen. Wintergreen was really cool. I really liked him. He's pretty much the pilot of both Deathstroke and Adeline. And pretty much, he's been working with Slade for seemingly years at this point. And yeah, Wintergreen is pretty cool. The voice acting for this movie is also pretty nice, honestly. You can genuinely feel the characters' emotions and shit when they're speaking and everything. Although the animation and expressions don't really express that the best sometimes, though, it can still feels like they're pretty flat when it comes to their not their dialogue, but just the general facial expressions. They don't really emote enough, in my opinion. But yeah, personally, the characters in this movie, whereas their characters are written and their voice actors did a really good job here, and the writers did with their characters too. But despite its minor flaws and everything, this movie is still absolutely amazing, and I highly recommend you check it out. Through legal means. I don't know if I would want to support piracy or anything, but with the most recent things that be going on with gaming and media, maybe I'll link in the description. I don't know. But yeah, now it's time we get into the Forgotten rating. This is something I didn't cover in my Turbo Racing League video, so I'll cover it here. So, in terms of the Forgotten rating, I would rate this movie at around maybe 6 out of 10. Because although this movie is fairly recent, as it did come out in 2020, in the 2020 decade, not many people still talk about this movie, although it is still pretty recent and still people do recognize and know about its existence. It still gets referenced in videos and stuff, but still, not much people very talk about as much to the point where it's extremely iconic, per se, you know? But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you later. Goodbye.